I've often heard the expression that music is like a language, and it's been tossed about by musicians and teachers alike. And I have to say, I agree with this. Having learned Norwegian and a little bit of Japanese in high school, I found that the process of learning a language, of practicing and making sure I get the right grammar, is exactly the same way as one expresses himself on a musical instrument or composing. So, in that sense, I would say they're very similar. Here are some other reasons why I think the two go hand in hand. Music and language have a syntax. For example, in music, there's a certain way in which you need to arrange notes or chords for it to make sense. And it's true in English. We would say the noun, the verb, followed by whatever else. And I found that when I was learning Norwegian, for example, the word order, the syntax, was changed around. For example, in English, we would say, "Where do you come from?" But in Norwegian, the word order would be a little different. You would say, "Where coming you from?" So that's a really important syntax. I found that when I was in Norway and I started to speak in Norwegian the way I speak English, it came across weird and probably didn't sound right. So it's the same with music as well. If I arrange chords and notes in a weird way, yeah, you could say it's music, but to the average listener, something will be off. Second reason why I think the two expressions go hand in hand is that both music and language is a universal experience. For example, everybody communicates using words. If not words, then maybe their language is body language, but it's a language. And music does the same thing. It conveys emotions. So music, for example, in history, has been used for war, to signal when an army should move forward. It has been used to sound alarm. It has been used to soothe and to communicate calm. And it's very much like language, where I might use soft words or small phrases when communicating to a child, or speak in a soft voice when trying to calm things down. If I want to be loud, I will express more and use sharper words. So the two are very, very much alike, and that's why I think language and music go hand in hand. Practice. In order to communicate effectively, one needs to have a good mastery of language. Anyone can babble on. When I listen to a child speak, I don't exactly have an emotional connection with them. They're telling me about their day, what they did at school. It's very interesting, but it doesn't necessarily move me to tears. But at the same time, I might listen to a great sonnet or poem or a lyric, and these things might have more of an impact on me because of the way it's constructed. It's a bit more complex, and therefore I'm able to associate with it and like, oh, that really applies to me and maybe what I'm going through at the moment. And that requires practice. If I don't practice language and vocabulary and how to use my dynamic range, then I'm not going to communicate effectively. For example, any child can sit on a piano and bang away at it, and you could say that they're making music, but there's really nothing to it. Whereas someone who's practiced the piano and practiced how to touch the piano can make it sing and be lyrical, and that has more of an impact. And this is why I say language and music go hand in hand. It requires practice to master it and to communicate it effectively. In order to paint an effective scene or convey an emotion just the way you want it to, it requires complex words. And in order for an orchestration, for example, to convey meaning and a sense of happiness, joy, tension, it requires an understanding of complex harmony and structures of composition. It's quite different to say, "I like that cat," from a child, than if someone were to say, "That ferocious feline is one of my favorite animals," for example. The two are very different. One's more expressive and kind of gives you an image of what it is that the communicator is communicating. And just like words, harmony is exactly the same way. It's one thing to just play a melody. For example, Mary Had a Little Lamb. You can hear the tune in your mind. And then layering that with many, many different instruments, say in an orchestra, with varied chords. Instead of 3 chords, you're using 4 chords, 5 chords, 6 chords, and all of them sevenths, augmented, diminished. All of this paints a picture. And this is the complexity that music can convey an emotion. If you want to get your message across quite strongly, then you might want to raise your voice. If you want to communicate something intimate, you might lower your voice. These different tones help convey meaning as well. We don't all speak like robots, and we're not monotonous and monotone when we speak. I went to the park, for example, is really boring. You know what I did, but it doesn't convey any emotion. And it's true with music as well. Dynamics help give color, variety, and convey emotion, and they're a great tool to use.